readers in tomorrow's elections and calls on strict adherence for the youth. How achievable do you think this is?
It's achievable, but that's the rule. INEC released a guideline for the 2019 election, and part of the rule was that where incidents where the carrier is not used, such polling unit ought to be cancelled. But what we saw in previous election is that there were opportunity for what they call a manual accreditation without the use of smart carrier. The smart carrier is very important for this process. It enhances the credibility of the poll. It means that the people who came with their PVC need to be verified that they are the owners of those PVC, and that's what the carrier is doing. We are not operating electronic voting. What we are operating is just to authenticate that the person who brought the PVC is the owner of the PVC. So if that process is not available, because we already tried it in 2015 election, so it's not new. So not to have it done when it's a fundamental principle in the rules and regulation of INEC, set by INEC itself. So the INEC will have no moral standing not to use that smart card tomorrow. So that's why part of our report is to say, INEC, it's your rule. We are watching you to use your own rule. Use it effectively and do not be selective in the use of it.
Okay, and you know the voter apathy issue is all over. It has become an issue of discourse. So following the outcome of the last elections, do you envisage such in tomorrow's elections?
Voter apathy, most likely because of the information coming, because we had observers in FCT, close to 100 of them across the area councils, and from the report we know is that there were people who had a PVC on their hand, and during the time of claims and objection, they saw their name on the register, but on the day of the election, their name was not available on the register. So those people said, most of them, and I won't say there were so many because I wouldn't use that verifiable indicators to judge the number of people who wouldn't turn out. But those people who claim that they came out on the day of election under the sun, waiting to be accredited, and eventually did not vote, or in areas where materials did not arrive about 1 p.m. So there's that human nature coming up. So but what we have seen, that INEC is ready. Materials are right now at the rack center, and we are good to go at the polling unit tomorrow. So I'm sure everyone who appeared at the polling unit last 2 Saturdays and didn't quite accredit until about 1 p.m. That would be the case tomorrow. Because it's going to start very well.
Okay, so thank you very much for coming on Nigeria Decides on 18 Channel 5 Abuja. Yes, I have been speaking with Mr. Austin Aigbe. He is the Senior Program Officer, Center for Democracy and Development. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Moving on, youths in the Federal Capital Territory have been urged to imbibe a good democratic value and culture to shun all forms of electoral violence. And Howard Yimba tells us more.
Imbibing a good democratic value and culture, many say they have resolved to be conscious of the norms that will enhance a free, fair and credible electoral process during the polls. Some youth in the Federal Capital Territory said there is the need for all and sundry to come together and shun all forms of vices during the elections.
FCT has been the most peaceful environment in the whole of the nation. And moreover, this is a place where almost all the leaders in the nation are staying. So for that reason, we're encouraging the youth within that area to make sure they bring peace and maintain peace and unity.
We have election around the corner, which is the governorship, and FC2, which is the chairmanship election in the 6 area councils. We are urging the youth to be law-abiding, to come out early as 8 o'clock, presumed by the INEC, to come and vote and wait for their vote, and it should be free and fair elections.
I'll urge our other youths to stay away from violence, to make sure that there's a free and credible election, and that they should not sell their votes.
Many of the opinion that with the signing into law the Not Too Young to Run bill, the youths are major stakeholders in the country's polity.
We've been to the various youth council areas in the FCT, and we have to a large extent covered those areas to see that there is a violent-free election. And we have also gone as far as telling them the dangers and the implications of engaging in thuggery and other political vices.
We want to have a sustainable government. We want to sustain the unity of this nation. And so we're talking to the young people who have the huge population of the electorate to please be orderly.
It is expected that with the full cooperation of all youth in the Federal Capital Territory, the area council elections will be credible and violence-free.
Oh, well, with all these on the ground, we believe all is set for the area council elections here at the FCT, with so much anticipation for a free polls. And that's it from our end. It's back to Cyril as Nigeria decides continues. It's over to you, Cyril.
All right, thank you very much, Fatima Umar Buba, telling us how set the FCT is for tomorrow's polls. And we heard the expectations from residents of the Federal Capital Territory. A number of them talked about turning out to cast their ballot. But beyond that, hopes that certain glitches experienced in the last 2 weeks would be corrected this time around. One of the issues would have to do with the identification of the polling units. As a number of people had that challenge some time ago in the last set of elections, where there was some bit of confusion about where the actual polling centers were, and that created some issues. But it's hoped that this time around the identification will be much easier, and of course the issue of the card readers. So many people have said, look, let us have a situation where the card readers would work. INEC has given assurance that the readers would work, but well, sometimes these things occur, and of course it's been renewed that as long as the card readers do not work, then you cannot begin to take into cognizance any kind of voting that takes place. What are your thoughts on that, the issue of the card readers and proper identification of voting centers?
There were challenges during the presidential election of proper identification of polling units. I want to believe that INEC has taken note of those challenges, and with the benefit of hindsight, would try to put measures in place to make it far easier this time around for people to be able to locate their polling units. I know for a fact that INEC is working on that. With regards to the issue of the card reader, I think during the presidential elections, relatively, the card reader we can say that it performed, you know, relatively, largely. There were cases of a few areas here and there where it did not quite perform. But if you look at it holistically, you know, the performance of the card reader this time around compared to 2015, I think was quite good. Most voters and most Nigerians who observed those elections, and even observers, have stated that much. So our expectation is that as INEC has committed to open these polls by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, that they will keep to that commitment and indeed ensure that those polls are open. Voter apathy begins to heighten when people are made to wait for long hours in the sun on queues, you know, without knowing when the materials would come, without knowing when the process, you know, of them exercising their civic responsibilities would actually happen.
Yeah, and that's when they begin to get restless and
absolutely
tempers become short.
Yes, and then even the news gets to those who are still at home, and then they refuse to turn out, and then you have this situation of voter apathy. So I do hope that INEC would keep to their words and make these polls across the country to open at the time that it's supposed to open.
Okay. Let's still stay with the voters, for instance, and void votes. Concerns have been raised about the huge number of void votes, and it's hoped that this time around we would see less and less of those void votes. But then some have also said the large numbers of participants in these elections may be responsible because the ballot paper, to some extent, to some people, is a little bit unmanageable. And so by the time you keep going through and try to either print or something, you know, something goes wrong and the vote is voided.
You know, for us at the National Orientation Agency, we anticipated that there would be this challenge of void votes. And so very early before the commencement of the general elections, we undertook a national sensitization campaign, you know, against the challenge of void votes. Now, the sheer huge number of parties present on that ballot is in itself a challenge. So when INEC was registering political parties and we saw how the numbers were growing, we knew that the voter would have challenge. It would have challenge, and some of these parties, their acronym is not too far from each other.
I mean, you have
APC, ACP, AA, you know, and so on and so forth. So, especially for a lot of our folks in the rural areas, these near similarities pose a lot of challenge. You know, there was a time that we looked at the symbols in my office of these political parties, and even at our level, we were asking ourselves, do you know the candidate that is on the ballot for this political party and that political party and that? You know, it was a big challenge. Not many of us could actually identify this. So talk more or less of the person in some remote village who needs to go and exercise his franchise and make a choice and then vote. So we anticipated that challenge and we conducted extensive voter sensitization against the challenge of void votes in all the 774 local governments and the 36 states of the Federation. And for a long time, we were running jingles on television on that challenge.
You imagine that, just the simple act of casting your vote. There's a special way you have to do that. You roll up.
That too is part of the challenge.
Yes,
you know?
but you don't see many people doing that as they struggle with the ballot paper.
Yes.
I don't see.
And the ink spills.
Sorry to chip in. You know, we've seen issues like this because there is, in the northern part of the country, if you people will do more and the civil society space will do more.
So it takes it back to your doorsteps, both of you, and how much enlightenment has been created. Yes, you put in so much effort, but is there a way to measure the result of this effort you've put in? And how enlightened is the voter today? And I'm not talking about the ones in the city. I'm talking about those in the rural settings where, well, they probably do not have guides to show them what to do and how to roll up, flatten, and some in the process of thumb printing and just trying to put it into the box might just get it smudged and then it's voided.
You know, the truth of the matter is, for now, we do have these over 90 political parties that are registered. The process of enlightening the voter must continue, even beyond this election, you know. So we are quite aware of that, and we're working closely with civil society. I just came back from Kaduna, where we hosted civil society organizations in the Northwest Zone to a capacity building session sponsored by Osiwa, you know, to build their capacity to go into communities and do a lot of this sensitization. And we got commitments from them, you know, that they would do so. We know we cannot do it all by ourselves, and sensitization is not a one-off thing if you want to achieve results, sustainable results. It must be continuous.
All right. Well, right at this point, another center beckons, and we'll be going over to our Enugu Network Center, where Ifeanyi Okafor is sitting in. And Ifeanyi, one of the things we would expect you to talk about is how sensitized the voters in Enugu are to tomorrow's polls. Give us a sense of that, and of course, what the expectations are for tomorrow's polls.
Thank you, Cyril. Welcome to Enugu Network Center of the Nigeria Decides studio. Well, in the Southeast, there has been much voter education and voter sensitization towards the elections. Of course, in the Southeast zone, the electorate are quite eager and indeed very much prepared to exercise their franchise. Citizens are quite hopeful, especially in this final phase of elections, which are indeed more localized than the previous election, as these are the candidates who would represent them in the state. The electoral umpire have expressed readiness for the exercise, and while we will hear the Commissioner of Police speak live on NTA on their readiness, I'm being joined here in the studio by Honorable Nwabueze Ugu. He's a constitutional lawyer and a human rights activist. He's a former member of Enugu State House of Assembly, where he represented Nkanu West constituency. I also have Suleiman Balarabe, the Commissioner of Police, Enugu State Command. Yeah, welcome to the Nigeria Decide studio here in Enugu Network Center.
Thank you, viewers. Thank you.
But before we begin our discussions, let us take these reports. Independent National Electoral Commission in Enugu State says all is set for the conduct of elections in the state and that it is not negotiable. Amechi Pius reports that the resident electoral commissioner of INEC, Emeka Ononamadu, stated this at a media briefing.
Beginning of the week, the office of the Independent National Electoral Commission and the Central Bank of Nigeria have been a beehive. Both offices have been characterized by movement of both sensitive and non-sensitive electoral materials to the various local government areas in the state. According to the resident electoral commissioner, Emeka Ononamadu, the exercise has been concluded with adequate arrangements to ensure the protection of materials and ad hoc staff at the various polling units.
All the sensitive materials and the non-sensitive materials have been moved to INEC area offices in the 17 local government areas. They all arrived safely. The distribution of these sensitive materials were observed by security agents, media, civil society, and party agents.
Ononamadu told the media that distribution of materials to the polling centers from the Central Bank of Nigeria was closely monitored by agents of the various political parties. He therefore advised voters in Enugu to come out en masse to elect candidates of their choice without any fear of intimidation.
We have not recorded any substantial obstacles or difficulty that can prevent election from either not starting on time or not happening at all in Enugu.
He assured that accreditation and voting will commence as scheduled at the various polling centers.
As Nigerians go to the polls to elect their governors and House of Assembly members, some voters in Enugu State say they expect an improvement from INEC, especially in areas of logistics and delivery of electoral materials to polling units. Jude Abugu reports.
Based on the lapses they observed from the conduct of Saturday, February 23rd presidential and National Assembly elections, these respondents do not seem to be impressed with the outcome of the election. They had expected to witness an election devoid of violence, technical hitches, and logistics challenges.
Leave the masses to vote out their conscience, to vote for any party they like.
Political apathy, sort of, because the conduct of the previous elections doesn't give much room for anything. We don't do election the way I see it.
In the gubernatorial and state assembly elections coming up tomorrow, they are looking forward to an outcome that will be acceptable to all the parties involved. This, they explained, can only materialize when the Independent National Electoral Commission and other key players in the election discharge their duties effectively.
People should be given the vote they voted for. That is, the result of the vote should be released to the people.
They should bring back the card reader. It's already electronic, but let it count.
On the security, I suggest that the security should do their job.
as the Constitution allows them to do.
On the expected level of voters turnout to the Saturday's gubernatorial and state assembly polls, the respondents reacted with optimism, saying that individuals to be elected are more known and closer to the people, hence the growing interest in the election.
Thank you. Back here in the studio, we still have the Commissioner of Police, Suleiman Balarabe, the Commissioner of Police of Enugu State Command. Now, CP, can you inform us of the preparations for the elections for Saturday?
Thank you very much. The State Police Command is fully prepared. We have made adequate deployment to all the polling units and voting centers. The electoral materials were escorted by our men to the racks from CBN and from INEC offices, and they are fully protected in those places. All the personnel of the command have been briefed of what to do and what not to do. And we have motorized patrol that will be going around from one place to another to ensure that there is peace and voters are being given adequate and free chance to go and vote when they are well secured to go and vote and cast their votes.
Thank you so much. Now, constitutional lawyer and human rights activist, Honorable Nwabweze Ugu, the primary function of the State Assembly is to promote efficiency and indeed transparency in the governance of the state. Now, based on this, how crucial is Saturday's State Assembly elections, of course, the governorship election?
The State Assembly election that is going to take place tomorrow is a very crucial one because, like you know, aside from the election of the governor tomorrow, there is also going to hold the election of members of the State Assembly into the Enugu State Assembly. Of course, you know that when you talk about democracy, the only thing that differentiates democracy from a dictatorship is that in a democracy there is a legislature, but under a dictatorship the military combines both roles of executive as well as that of the legislature. Yeah. It's only the judiciary that they do not abrogate. So that in a democracy now, it is only the legislature that was not in existence under dictatorship that is now born in a democracy. So that's why the legislature is referred to as the engine room of democracy, as the people's parliament, as the hub of the democratic system. So we expect, in
fact, it's quite localized at this time around.
That's right. So we expect that aside from the election into the governorship, that the state assemblies will also have people elected into them. In Enugu, we have 24 state constituencies, and we have not heard INEC say that election is not going to hold in any of the constituencies. So tomorrow, 24 of them will be elected, and the governor will also be elected.
Okay, now, CP, the Southeast has remained largely peaceful. Security agencies are expected to sustain the professionalism and, of course, the non-partisanship. What do you expect from the security agencies that are on ground for the elections? What have you told them to do tomorrow?
And you see, before now, we have been having meetings with the heads of other sister security agencies in the form of ISES. And we have analyzed what we should be doing, and that there is need for all of us to be professional, to be apolitical, and just allow voters to exercise their own rights. And we are ready to secure them. Okay, that's what we are going to do.
Okay. What is your own assessment of the collaboration between the police and the civil defense operatives using the first phase of election as your yardstick?
As I said, during the presidential election and National Assembly election, we held a meeting and we come into terms. We shared ourselves in trees. We took different locations where we supervised our men. The synergy and collaboration between the sister agencies in this state is well done. It's marvelous. And that is why we are achieving the feat we are achieving in maintaining the peace of Enugu State. And that was why during the last election, there was nothing that happened in this state. And the election was so peaceful.
Now, Honorable Lugu, what do you have to say to the security arrangements so far?
In respect of security, I think that we in Enugu are so happy. In fact, we gloat over the fact that Enugu State is the most peaceful and the most secure state in this country. And I expect it was the same during the February 23 presidential election, and it's also going to be the same tomorrow. Of course, like you have seen, there is nothing that has taken place that has ruptured the security arrangement in Enugu, and it's going to continue like that. Well, so I don't know how the governor and the police did that magic. That has been so marvelous that at least since the inception of the present dispensation in Enugu State, I have not heard the security arrangement and the success so far is unprecedented and very marvelous.
Okay, let's come to the Commissioner of Police. You have obviously identified the flashpoint areas, and what necessary steps do you intend to take to ensure that violence or any form of misdemeanor by miscreants are averted?
You see, after identifying flash areas, we made massive deployment of policemen and other security agents there, not to allow, even giving them the chance to even hatch their nefarious activities. And that is what we have done. Taking into consideration those areas, if at all there are, but we have few. So those areas now we made adequate and massive deployment of our men there. And you know, when they see the men in uniform, definitely they will change their own idea. If they have bad intention, they will now change it. And that is what we have done.
Now, a while ago from Abuja, you did hear the moderator there talk about the ballot papers and the fact that it was quite large because of the large numbers of candidates vying for elective positions, both in the State Assembly and the governorship elections. Quite unprecedented, I must say. Now, do you envisage that the electorate will be able to identify their choices because of these large numbers of choices there on the ballot?
Certainly, I expect that the electorate is not going to confront any difficulty in identifying what is what by tomorrow. Because if you really look at it, in each polling booth in Enugu State, like in every other place, there's going to be just 2 ballot papers, one for the governorship and the next for the assembly, the House of Assembly.
I'm talking about a large number of candidates now on the ballot paper.
Okay. Well, it was the same during the presidential election because there is no party that did not contest in the presidential election that's going to contest tomorrow. It's the same number that contested in the presidential election that will also contest tomorrow. So I don't honestly foresee any difficulty that the electorate is going to encounter tomorrow. So it's just going to be business as usual.
You believe they have been sufficiently educated?
Certainly they have. Certainly they have. They've been sufficiently educated, and the voter turnout also is going to be as massive as it was during the presidential election on February 23.
Okay, now the first phase of the 2019 elections did throw up challenges in the area of late commencement of elections in some polling centers. Now, what are your expectations from the electoral body for Saturday's election?
My expectation is that INEC has truly learned the ropes. They have promised us that all those anomalies that took place on February 23, they've done a lot to ensure that occurrence, and that we are going to witness a very smooth takeoff tomorrow, and that every other procedure is going to be very smooth and is going to be as envisaged and as dictated by the Electoral Act.
Okay, Commissioner of Police, from your own perspective, now how would you address political parties, supporters the agents and the electorate, and in fact the general public, in terms of their conduct during the elections and after the elections?
You see, for the political parties, they should play the game in accordance with the rule. And for voters, they are free to go and cast their votes and elect a leader of their choice. That is going to be assured. For those who are the members of the public there, I expect all of them to be orderly. Those voters to be orderly, join the queue, accredit themselves, and then cast their votes. Once there is law and order, and people are orderly, everything will go smoothly.
Now, international observers and domestic observers have commended the last exercise. Now, how important are the observations and assessments to the elections?
The observation of both local as well as international observers is very, very important, because that is the only gauge the people, both Nigerians in diaspora, even Nigerians here, as well as the international community, that is the only way by which they could have an unbiased view of what took place in the election. Because remember that INEC is a government agency, the security agencies are government agents, and every other person that plays any official role in the election are government agencies. So there is no way, assuming the the observers are not there, there is no way you can have an unbiased assessment of what exactly took place, except through these observers. So the job of the observers are very, very important, because if they are not there, it will be difficult for you to have another view aside from what the government agencies tell you. So the observers are as important as the election itself.
Now, CP, have you actually provided adequate security to ensure that all the apparatus of the elections are actually well protected to enable them exercise their own duties?
You see, like I said, both sensitive and non-sensitive materials have been fully security, the audience, and we parley with them, assuring them that they are safe. And that is, as my colleague said, that makes an election to be credible.
Well, you've heard it, Cyril. That's our own situation report from the Enugu Network Center. It's back to you in Abuja.
All right. Thank you very much, Ifeanyi Okafor in Enugu. Well, back here we have a number of reports as well, and one of them has to do with the preparations for the election in Bonny, and this report is by Onengi Fineface.
It's always a delight to be in Bonny, the Atlantic city on the fringes of Rivers State. We're currently at the INEC office. This was the exact same venue where violent eruptions disrupted the presidential and national assembly elections. But today, preparatory to that of the governorship and state assembly elections, and of course the rescheduled national assembly elections, ad hoc staff are already on ground sorting out materials. You see quite a number of them preparing themselves for distribution of these materials and onward movement to the various wards and units for Saturday's elections. One of the observers here will tell us what she has noticed so far in the preparations to the election. So tell me your name and you tell me what you have observed so far in terms of preparations for tomorrow's elections.
My name is Lolo Hilsham. I'm observing for Stakeholders Democratic Network. And so far on ground, the INEC people, they are prepared and they are sorting out materials in preparation to move to the various wards, I believe tomorrow, because from what I'm seeing, I don't think they'll move this night. But everything is in order, and the various ward officials, they are preparing themselves, and I think most of them have finished sorting out their materials, and hopefully we believe that tomorrow they'll move with the materials to the various wards for the elections to take place. And we believe and pray God that there will be no violence like the presidential election, and we believe that everything will go smoothly. The security officials are also here to maintain peace and order, and even within the community, people are also in peace and order because our traditional institutions have called meetings of various political parties to advise them to be peaceful in their conduct because they wouldn't want anybody to lose their lives in the process of election.
Thank you very much. Now, beyond the NTA, there are other media organizations already on ground to give coverage of the elections to the wider society. What is now left is for the day when the electorate in Bonny will come out to cast their ballots for their candidate of choice.
All right, thank you very much. And from Bonny in River State, we go over to Gombe State. Also, this report is about preparations for the election.
Governorship and House of Assembly election is next to Presidential and National Assembly election to be conducted by INEC tomorrow. 24 hours to the Governorship and State House of Assembly election in the country, Gombe Local Government INEC office is witnessing a turnout of INEC officials to receive sensitive and non-sensitive materials. Right behind me is a vehicle conveying the non-sensitive and sensitive materials for onward distribution to the various polling units across Gombe State.
Every item is complete because we checked since day before yesterday, and even yesterday morning we checked and we sorted everything out array by array. So right now they are moving down to their rack centers so that they will have enough time again to sort it PU by PU.
Gombe Main Market is a beehive of activities as people are trooping for the last minute purchase. With me is Jedida, who is trooping near Main Market to her purchase.
Yeah, actually we all know that it's 24 hours to the election, so we come to the market to purchase some things. We wish for free and fair election, and we want everywhere to be peaceful.
So how eager are you to see that you cast your vote?
Honestly, I'm eager to cast my vote.
Banks and ATM machine centers also witnessed an avalanche of people who went to withdraw money to travel out to their villages. This makes motor parks in Gombe town busy as commuters wait for vehicles.
Right, that report from Gombe State about the level of preparations for the election. Well, I still have with me here my two analysts, David Akoji, Special Assistant to the Director General, National Orientation Agency, and Mukhtar Halilu Modibu, Head Data Collections Code Observers. Now, from what we are seeing, in the next few hours, we'll be out there to test all the preparations and put it to the test and see just how far what we're getting here is reflected on ground. For the voters once more, are they likely to face challenges because of the sheer number of contestants? We heard the report from Enugu there, and someone was so confident that perhaps in that part of the country, voters would not have challenges, but I do know that so many have spoken about the sheer number.
There are peculiar problems in the southeast based on some of the experience that we have had working in the southeast and some of the feedbacks also that we have gotten from our officials on the ground in the southeast. With regards to void votes, we know that some persons deliberately thumbprint more than one political party, thereby rendering their vote void.
Why would that be? What would be the point in that? What would be?
It goes to the challenge of vote buying.
I see.
And selling. You know, a person collects money from 2 or 3 political parties, and he swears to an oath that on the day of election he would thumbprint for them. So in order not to attract the consequences of that oath to which the person has sworn, Some persons will go there and deliberately thumbprint the tree.
Yes.
In fulfillment of the bargain.
Of the bargain, yeah.
And then that vote becomes void. There's a high level of enlightenment, you know, in that part of Nigeria compared to some of these other parts. But our people are on the field. They are continuing to engage with the people and to enlighten up until yesterday. We were still talking to people, you know, on how to vote correctly. And we hope that this would impact positively in terms of reducing the number of votes that will be voided in this election that would happen in a few hours' time.
With the use of cell phones not allowed in the booths there where they actually cast your ballot, one would have thought that the incidence of vote buying would drastically reduce, but it would seem that people are still devising all kinds of means to beat the system.
Yes. You know, whosoever is trying to do something bad knows his ways. So a whole lot of people are using a whole lot of means to do that. But I think with the strategies INEC is using and with the kind of security police is assuring Nigerians, I feel that is vote buying and vote selling will go a long way in seeing it at the minimal level. We can't say it's going to be stopped, but it's actually reducing drastically. Why I say that is, if we have 4 unarmed security personnel in the polling station, as said by the police, so I see no reason whereby you see people bargaining votes. The police will see people bargaining vote and they will allow that to happen. So some of the people are using the houses close to the polling station to do that. With the securities, with the armed securities, we have 300 meters around the polling unit. Will also help in that. And we have observers. We have people that are enlightened, the citizens that are enlightened. It's not, security is not the job of only uniformed men and women. But we, the citizen, if you are a true citizen of Nigeria, if you are a Nigerian with capital A, with capital N, so you ought to do something whenever you see something. I think NOA have been saying stuff about if you see something, say something. So actually, if you can see what is happening, like vote buying and vote selling, it's happening. All you need to do is to track to this. But I think it will go a long way.
Perhaps if we move a little bit away from the process of the elections and still go back to the voters, isn't there a way to raise the level of awareness that there are other ways that you could do? I mean, you could get credible people into office. That's by holding them accountable and holding them to account for all their actions, those who are in office.
Yes.
What is it that the electorate are missing out here? And everyone seems to think democracy is all about the elections, and once elections have been held, people have been voted into power, that's it.
I think our job at Connected Development is to hold government accountable. Now, what we are trying to do is, we are not just doing it for our own self, but for now, whenever we go to communities, we tell communities, hey, democracy is not all about vote and allow him to go. Democracy is all about demand and supply. Democracy is all about questions and answer. Whenever he comes to ask you for questions, that's whenever he comes to ask you for votes. Now tell him, this is what we want. You will see a community is in need of water, and you give them score. You understand? The community is in need of toilets in schools, and you give them boreholes. It's reduced the number of girls that go to school. Whenever they are on their natural menses and what have you, they don't go to school because their privacy is not covered. You understand? So unless and until we begin to ask questions, we begin to ask our leaders questions, and that is what we are trying to do. You should not just vote and allow these people go. If anyone that you vote and he said that he's going to do this particular thing and he didn't do it, vote him out. That is why you're there. That is why you have PVC. So I feel unless and until we begin to ask questions and not just allow these politicians to come and just do this thing and go, we're not going anywhere.
All right, David, take it. Yes, go ahead.
I agree with Mukhtar here that we need to see more citizens' engagement with government.
Yes.
You know, we need to see citizens asking questions after elections. The way our elections are today is basically transactional.
Yes.
The electorate does not get to see these people that he or she has elected after the elections.
Perhaps that is why they always ask for something in advance.
Absolutely. They know that once this process of election is over, they no longer have access to these people. The people would now be protected by policemen. If they come back home, you know, they are protected. Nobody's allowed to go close to them. Even though a lot of these guys claim to have constituency offices, those constituency offices are hardly ever operational. They don't organize for themselves engagement with their constituents so as to hear from them and then take inputs, you know, into what they do in their work. So these guys are understanding that if they don't get something now, they are likely not to get anything at all. So what we are doing as part of our engagement with civil society, to engage with government, to interrogate the things that the people are doing, to follow the budget, you know, and to raise questions when they are not satisfied as to how things are being done, and to seek answers through appropriate channels.
We have FOIs, you know, freedom of information laws and what have you, so you can use them and ask questions.
On the part of the political parties themselves, when they go out and canvass for votes, how much of ideology do you think that's in? Because you basically just hear the same things and look, don't vote for XYZ, vote for, you know, QRS, or, you know, things like that. And no one hammers on anything that has an ideology, issues, you know. That
yeah, you know, unless and until INEC begins to do one thing, monitor spendings of all these politicians, of all the political parties, to monitor their spending and monitor their campaigns. Unless and until we begin to do debates, encourage debate, you know, it's a tradition that sitting presidents don't go for debate in this country. But how will we as citizens know what you have for us? You understand? So unless and until, I think I will go with the opinion of INEC should begin to monitor the financial spending of these politicians and their manifesto. What are they going to offer to these people? You understand? So that people will know that, hey, if I vote Mr. A, he's going to give me this. If I vote Mr. B, he's going to give me this. So people that are going for, let's use next level, will go for next level. People that are going for better Nigeria will go for better Nigeria because they have seen everything. Because if you see the way manifestos are being presented in this country, it's just, we put it on a paper and you come and deliberate it one, and that's all. You understand? We call other candidates inspirational speakers. But they are changing the narratives of the way politics need to be done in this country.
How can the electorate begin to, you know, engage the political parties? And not just what you see around is a lot of drumming, singing and dancing, and that's it.
You know, the challenge we have, Cyril, in this country is falling values. Our value system have fallen so badly that if you put two televisions in this place now and you are playing hip-hop music on one while you are showing policy and economic analysis on the other, you are going to find more people, more Nigerians interested in the hip-hop music than the policy analysis or economic analysis that's going on the other television. And this is how our values have changed. We are drawn to the frivolous, you know, those things that are surface and do not really add any long-term values. So there's need for value reorientation. We have realized this. we need to shift the focus of our people to those things that add value, those things that, you know, make countries great, those things that are enduring in the long term, you know. So, and this is what the political parties are cashing in on. What is it that the people will find attractive? Will they pay attention? You understand? If a politician goes on the soapbox and begins to analyze policies, analyze economic proposals that he intends to put in place to better people's life, will they appreciate that better than, for instance, if he brings Davido or any of these other chaps, and all it is they are singing and dancing whatever music is trending per time? So we need to work on the values of our people to make them become more interested in those things that really, really make countries great.
By simplifying the whole thing.
Yes.
And making the hip-hop people join in the policy. and yes, for them to be talking about the policy and for them to be talking about development. That's when...
Except that most of the times what you get played on those meetings has nothing to do with any policy, but more to do with rhythm and just the music. Well, we'll take a short break here. Stay with us. There's more to come on Nigeria Decides.
Nigeria is a very important country in Africa, and it's important to show to Africa that democracy is something really important.
Democracy has come. It has come to stay.
We are going to have a very peaceful, fast, transparent, and free and fair election.
We have a good hope for Nigeria.
It's a matter of transparency.
We need to vote our future.
I'm voting. I have my card here already.
I'm sure this is going to be a success at the end of the day by the special grace of God.
I just advise everyone to take it easy, be calm. It's a game.
No violence. When we embrace peace, all of us will enjoy. We will enjoy the dividends of democracy.
I'm at Unit 6, Ward 4, Obanla in Akure South Local Government Area of Ondo State.
This is polling Unit 18 at Ungwardania with the local government area, Kano South.
With the distribution of these sensitive materials to all the polling units in Anambra State.
This is Ward 10, Unit 3 of Ijon in Boyin Local Government Area of Ekiti South Central District.
Ward 8 in Calabar Municipality of Cross River State.
Election has commenced here in Lagos State.
In Herogana, with the local government.
Nigeria Decides Studios, NTA, Africa's largest TV network. And yes, when we started off the session, you talked about this whole process being about young people Right, and young people are into technology. They are abreast of the latest technological advancements. And so we ask, how can technology enhance the whole process of our democracy, particularly the election, the voting process and all that? And so many people have suggested that we should be looking beyond these to a stage where technology will remove the bottlenecks, will make the whole process less cumbersome and more credible.
Yes, technology will simplify everything. When I said simplify everything, I mean we have a platform that is being used by a whole lot of countries to do collections of results and even voting, called blockchain. Now, blockchain is a platform that is being used for collection of data of elections and what have you. So with the use of this kind of things, you know, we don't have to shut down country. We don't have to come together in one place to do. You can go online and vote. You can just go by your office and vote and go. Immediately you vote, the machine accreditates you, you vote, and it goes straight to where you want. So, and it's reduced the number of casualties we normally record in this process. And all these things are being done in a manner that is, you know, whenever we talk about all these things, a whole lot of people think we're going to lose, people will lose their job, no, it's not happening, but it's actually going to make the whole process a simple process. It's going to make the whole process work again, because if we are using blockchain today, 3 of us here will do the whole job, because all you need is just the computer and be watching how it comes in. If I'm in Kaduna voting, immediately I vote, it appears to you that is in Abuja. So you don't need to follow all these procedures of burning INEC office. If INEC office should be burned, you know, all these things will not happen. So technology will go a long way in helping.
I think, yes, I think what Mukhtar is saying makes a lot of sense. Our electoral process is evolving. We are not exactly where we were when we started. The card reader, the smart card reader, is an innovation that is adding a lot of value to the process. My thinking is that by the time we get our biometric gathering right, that our electoral process will benefit from that. It is at that point that if somebody goes and votes with his thumb, that thumb can be verified, you know, on the basis of the database that exists on our biometric database. And I think we're getting there gradually. National Identity Management Commission is doing a lot of work in this direction in terms of harvesting biometrics as they issue national identity card. You know, so I think we're growing and that we will get to that point.
Yeah.
Well, this also would enhance the process of collation, where you wouldn't need to do what we do now manually, send in results to collation centers, where you could easily just straight away, right from there, you know.
It goes straight.
But again, they would say there are challenges towards that. First, you have to fix your power issues, and then the fear of hackers into the system. Just before the elections, the build-up to the general elections, the 2019 general elections, you had concerns being raised about whether, you know, about the integrity of the systems that INEC was going to deploy, and you know, if it was possible to clone or do such.
These things, hackers exist, yes. But we've been in this country, I think my age is not that much, but I have never had an issue of CBN being hacked. You understand? So if CBN will be protected for this a long number of time, then at least this thing will be protected. If there are hackers, there are people that deal with hackers. And there are machines that deal with hackers. So where your right ends is exactly where someone's right begins. Where your knowledge ends is exactly where someone's knowledge begins. In my generation, I use ATM. In my generation, I go to bank, we they get in BVN. They get my thumbprint and everything. INEC use my thumbprint. I go to some hospital, they use my thumbprint. So why do I have to come and follow line to vote?
That's a huge question.
Yes.
I do believe that we will get there.
Yeah, we would get there because I overheard INEC chairman saying if you are seeing INEC is the most fastest growing government agency. So I will go by it that in the next election we're going to see us voting e-voting.
Oh. It will involve change of laws.
Yes.
All right. Perhaps that's the biggest issue here, where you would need to change the laws. And that brings us to those who will be voted into office at the state level. We've had that of the National Assembly. And so this brings us to what will happen. And it's been said that for most of the states, the governors have total control over the legislature. Do we see this changing? Are people now determining that, look, we've got to put in people into the State Houses of Assembly who would not be responsible to the governor in Government House, but to the people who elected them?
Ideally, what democracy demands is that the three arms of government will serve as checks and balances to one another. In many states in Nigeria, that is truly not the case.
Yes.
You know, and I think it also speaks to the quality of people that are being voted into these assemblies.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people who have quality tend to shy away from this because, because of the toga, you know, of how will I put it now? The toga of unseriousness that is attached to political office, you know, in most of the places we go to. In this country, people think that if you are very religious, you shouldn't go into politics. That if you have integrity, you shouldn't go into politics and begin to contest for these positions. That if you are not a cultist, you shouldn't go into politics and contest. So we leave that space for people who exhibit these kinds of characters, you know, and you cannot expect much from them.
So how do we begin to raise the awareness for people who get into the state? Because now the function of the assembly shouldn't be that of doing the bidding of the executive.
Yes.
And this is a little bit lost on those who put them there in the first place through their ballots.
Yeah. You see, we are getting there because we've seen the law that reduced the number of age that's not too young to run taking place. We've seen young people coming in offices like House of Representatives. We've seen a quite number of young people coming in, and we've seen citizens now calling for debate, you know, asking manifesto. I think a day before yesterday or so, the first ever Abuja Area Council local government chairman and councillors had a debate here in Abuja. And we've seen states like Enough is Enough is an organization that has been organizing state legislative debates and what have you. So we're getting there bit by bit. But the only thing is we're not moving as fast as we're supposed to move. But we're getting there. We are beginning to see people coming in. Not just, if you check, most of the people back in those days, if you see the people that are going into the State House of Assembly, are people that have secondary school, you know, not just the secondary school, but they don't have that experience to be there. But we are beginning to see doctors, you know, professors in the political system. Because if you see the system we have now, we have a quite number of professors as political holders. We have our vice president is a professor, and is a professor of law. So we are beginning to have this kind of people in the system. That is to tell you that the system is changing. Because with the bringing in of not too young to run, that tend to see youth, young people coming into the politics to do something good, actually is really moving. But the only thing is, I know we're not moving as we're supposed to move. That's as fast as 21st century. But we're moving. We're moving.
we need to speed up the process?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with Mutar on that score. You know, we need to attract quality people into that space. And that's why I said, when I looked at the number of Nigerians that came out on various political party platforms to run alongside our president for that position, it gave me a ray of hope. You know, we've found people who have made success in their professions at home and abroad. You know, people who have made their mark and are respected, you know, coming out to try, you know, and see if Nigerians would appreciate them enough to vote for them. So these kinds of people need to be encouraged, you know, to continue to come on.
All right, now as we prepare to wind down, this point that we're bringing up here has to do with the various issues about things that go wrong during the electoral process and how people breach the rules, and concerns have been raised about punishment not being meted to those who are found wanting, those who try to disrupt the system. Even though the laws are there, sometimes they get away with it, and that's to deal with electoral offenses.
I think that we need to take these things far more serious than we are taking them at the moment. I also think that to achieve that, we need to unburden INEC. You understand? We need to identify institutions that will be empowered. You know, we probably necessarily do not need to create new institutions. We have existing institutions. So we need institutions that will be empowered to make example of people who brazenly contravene existing laws in the electoral process. That's the way you can disincentivize, you know, these things that people do and get away with it. Election year after election year, you find people commit all sorts of electoral crimes, and very few, if any, are ever brought to book. So there's no disincentive for people to continue to do this. If people find that people are actually going to jail, you know, and spending many years in jail as a result of committing this offense, perhaps they will be dissuaded from doing so.
Well, it's still Nigeria Decides. We'll take another break to bring you this message.
Nigeria is a very important country in Africa, and it's important to show to Africa that democracy is something really important.
Democracy has come. It has come to stay.
We are going to have a very peaceful, fast, transparent, and free and fair election.
We have a good hope for Nigeria.
It's a matter of transparency.
We need to vote our future.
I'm voting. I have my card here already.
I'm sure this is going to be a success at the end of the day by the special grace of God.
Just advise everyone to take it easy, be calm. It's a game.
No violence. When we embrace peace, all of us will enjoy.
at Unit 6, Ward 4, Obanla in Akure South Local Government Area of Ondo State.
This is polling Unit 18 at Ungwardania with the local government area, Kano South.
With the distribution of these sensitive materials to all the polling units in Anambra State.
This is Ward 10, Unit 3 of Ijan in Boeing Local Government Area of Ekiti South Central District.
Ward 8 in Calabar Municipality of Cross River State.
Election has commenced here in Lagos State.
In Herogana, in the local government.
All right, Mukhtar, the authorities have sounded a note of warning to those who might still be harboring thoughts of disrupting the process, those who still think they can do a few things and get away with it. But the authorities sound this note of warning all the time. And it is the opinion of some Nigerians that just giving a warning isn't enough. People must be seen to pay the price, to be sanctioned for whatever they have done to pull back this country in terms of the gains in its democratic journey. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, first of all, my thought is I will go back of, let's say, 4 years. It takes INEC 4 years to organize election. So I think it's high time for us to start sensitizing people on the need to stay away from all these things from, let's say, from day one after election. Immediately after 2019 election, it's upon all the people, upon us as the civil society organization, upon the government, upon INEC, and upon everybody to start sensitizing people to know that, see, hey, there is punishment for all these things. Not to say 2 or 3 days to election or 2 or 4 hours to election, you see police showing force, you know, going around state. It won't remove this thing out of people. But I think all the people in Nigeria, we are law-abiding citizens. So unless and until we begin to have everybody talking about a particular thing, you understand, we begin to talk about that particular aspect of there is a punishment under our electoral act that says if you hijack or if you try to collect a snatch ballot box, you should be jailed for 24 months imprisonment. Unless and until we begin to see people being jailed for that, you understand, we will not change. So if the sensitization is being done early enough, it will go a long way in reducing all these kind of things. And at the end of the day, maybe a day or 2 days to election, we'll now do all the stuffs of showing force, you know, telling people on all these things.
Oh, well, the show of force hardly deters people, and something that unless you begin to put your foot down and send people to jail, you know, and punish them for such offenses, and then perhaps you wouldn't even need the show of force just a couple of hours to the election. Because when someone remembers that perhaps someone has been in jail for the past 2 years.
That is correct. I think our main challenge actually is this perception of electoral crimes being minor.
Yes.
And so once elections are over, we seem to just forget them and brush them aside. Yes. And the people get away with the crime.
All right, well, we've been talking here about the elections, which should start off at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Oh, sorry, later this morning. 8 o'clock later this morning, because we are 1 hour, almost an hour into Saturday. And so the elections are for later this morning. Polls will be opening at 8 o'clock. And hopefully Nigerians will go back to the polls and decide for the governors, members of the various assemblies in the states, and of course in the FCT, the area councils. NTA will continue to bring you up to date with the happenings, and the Nigeria Decide studios will be on all through as the process goes on. For now, we'll take a break. At 1 o'clock, there will be the news on international, and then, of course, NTA Nigeria Decide studios will reopen at 6 o'clock later this morning, and will be on with the process. So for now, I'd like to say thank you to David Akoji, Special Assistant to the Director General of the National Orientation Agency. David, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cyril. It's a pleasure.
And also thank you to Mukhtar Halilu Madibu, Community Engagement Assistant, Connected Development and Head Data Collections, Code Observers. Thank you for being here.
It's an honor.
And thank you for staying with us this far. We'll take a break now. Nigeria Decide studios will reopen at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's later today. 6 a.m. we'll be back. See you then.